Well, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm not going to be long. I just want to just talk about a couple things and really put some things on your head as we, as you do your work. First and foremost, though, I'd like to thank everyone. On behalf of our founder, Kenny Gamble, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that are working. On their behalf as well, I'd like to thank you for the work that you're doing. And I want to kind of connect some dots for you and talk about why this is important, what you're doing, and some of the work that's behind the scene that's being done, and why are we doing all this? I mean, what's the purpose? Where are we going? As Marvin Gaye said, what's going on? What's really going on? I use a lot of musical references, but you can tell how old I am because most of them are in the 70s. In fact, how many people here read any of my columns? Oh, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I write a column, and I'm writing. Now, for you educators, you guys should know these are not articles. These are not newspaper articles. These are lesson plans. In fact, I treat them like that, and I had to convince the newspaper publishers that, Rahim, these are not articles. They want 600 words. I'm like 4,000 words. 1,300. All right, so in fact, I promised to do a insert. They're doing an insert in one of the newspapers, and I promised to do a real article, like, 600, 700. She just told me it was 1,300. So I'm writing what I feel, and what I'm expressing is really how I see the world, how I see things, the challenges we're dealing with, but also some of the solutions. So I encourage everybody to read those articles. I think for your middle class students, even for the higher students, the older students, I think it's content that you can use for instruction. I would love to see it happen. And, I didn't intend it to be that way, but it's clearly, if it's good for adults, it's good for children. It's the same message. The message is about personal responsibility. I mean, that's what the message is about, personal responsibility. So I made the statement that, where are we going? What are we trying to do here in Milwaukee? What's really going on? And I've stayed away. I haven't been in your hair. I've stayed away purposefully so you could do your work. You could figure out how, things are going to operate. You can put systems in place. And I know it ain't perfect. Nothing is. There's no such thing as perfection, but we're all striving for perfection. But the only way we become perfect or even close to perfect is that people don't give up. I mean, people give up so easily. I mean, something gets in the way, and next thing you know, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that. I mean, damn it. I mean, you say you profess to do this or you believe in this, but yet you give up so easily. The first little challenge come in, somebody says something you didn't like, or did something you didn't like, and you're ready to give up. I mean, I see it all the time. So if we want to get to where we want to go, we're going to have to do it. I talk in my articles, I talk about personal responsibility. If we want to see the outcomes we see in our mind's eye, we're going to have to earn it. Now, what does that look like? What does that look like? That means when you want to give up, you can't give up. When you're frustrated and upset, you got to fight through it. Because guess what? You can get off this ship and get on another ship. It's the same thing. So if you're going to invest your time in something, at least where the vision is aligned. We still got a long way to go, but the vision is aligned, and that vision is how do we save our community? And so I write an article every week. And it's a lesson plan, so you need to really listen to it or read it. I also do 2 radio shows, and I don't think I guess some of you should be able to listen to the radio show, but we just expanded from Fridays from 3 to 5 to Mondays and Fridays from 3 to 5. Now, I'm positioning the radio show and the newspaper for the schools. I've kind of held it down and kind of held the slots down, though, with the whole intent is how do I use you guys? How do I incorporate you? How do I get you out in front to help deliver this message? So, where are we going? And I said we're trying to rebuild our community. I mean, I don't know if you hiding under a rock, but if you paid any attention to anything that's going on in the city of Milwaukee, there are 2 cities in the city. There's a city where a whole lot of bad is going on, and then there's a city there's a whole lot good going on. And the children that come to our schools are impacted in many cases by the city where a whole lot of things bad are going on. To the tune where Milwaukee is either number 1 or number 2 in every negative demographic. Now, I don't think you should be proud of that or people fighting for being able to articulate that. I want to see them fight for articulating a solution. If you want to, bring this information up and talk about this information, where is the solution? You are the solution. So when I say what's going on, fundamentally, if we're going to change the dynamics that we see and the outcomes, we got to change the pipeline. The pipeline of human beings are in the schools. If we're going to change the dynamics, the outcomes that you see, that Milwaukee is the number 1 in this, the number 1 in incarceration rates, underemployment, unemployment, all of the social issues, human trafficking, you name it, is number 1 right here. If we're going to change those conditions, we have to change the pipeline. And the pipeline is the children. So that's what we're doing. That's the work you're doing. Like you're doing that because it's tough work. But if we organize ourselves, what we're attempting to do, I think we have a shot at it. You're part of that organization. You're part of that vision. Now let me share with you the vision is. And I think with the expansion of Lee School, which we're opening in September, the expansion of the high school, which we're opening in September, you're seeing now the picture coming together. We want to have a K-12 system that we can now count on to help us fight this battle. And a K-12 system at scale, not a K-12 system where you have 300, 400, 500 people. We'd like to have a K-12 system of about 3,000 people, students. What will that give us? We'd like to have a graduating class of scholars that are personally responsible, that understand that they're personally responsible to themselves to be competitive that they be able to come out into the market, into the open world, and compete. But they're also personally responsible for their community. When I write my articles, I'm writing about where we started as the African American community. And if the community is going to be saved, the African American community is going to have to save them. So the question is, who's going to do it? So we have to create a graduating class of scholars that have the capacity and the consciousness to do it. That's what this is all about. That's where we're going. That's how we can stop this nonsense of trying to deal with these massive problems on the back end and never dealing with the issues on the front end. The front end is to create a cohort of students who can handle this conversation, who can understand this issue, and are prepared to compete to make it happen. That's success for me. That's success for Universal. And you're participating in that success. But we got a lot of work to do. We got to organize. We got to organize, organize, organize. There's one key, most important thing that's missing in the black community. There's no leadership. There's no leadership. None. Yeah, there are individual leaders. In fact, there could be 1,000 leaders. But when you have 1,000 leaders, you technically have no leader. So what we've been doing is trying to organize that community to have a voice so that it can be able to work with us as we're moving through this process to deal with some of the issues that we're going to have to deal with as a collective. Now, we have a right to have that kind of conversation because the goal is to have about 3,000 students in the K-12 system, and we're moving in that direction. The next year or two, we'll be there. God willing, in September, we'll be almost near 1,600 students. Each year, we go up another 100 or so. We're looking at another school right now that we're making an application for another elementary school. Once that's done, we'll have the mechanics, the infrastructure now to get us to where we have a scaled population, a very small but very formidable school district right in Milwaukee. That's the goal. And then now we have to distinguish ourselves. And how are we going to do that? Organizing ourselves. We've got to organize our parents. We've got to organize our staff. You got to know what the vision is. How many people on Facebook? You guys got to get... I mean, I refused it for a long time. But I'm on Facebook now. Well, I'm on Facebook via Tosha. Instagram, social media. We got to organize. Here's the problem we have, the challenge we have. What we're looking at today is the end of the continuum. When we get rules and regulations, that's the end of the continuum. But what happens first, where the real argument takes place that creates and initiates rules and regulations that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, is public opinion. And in the public opinion, when I talked about leadership, where is the leadership in the black community that's going to help shape and form and fashion public opinion? Or accept the black community that sits there and listens and it just happens. There's no calendar, there's no game plan. There's no agenda. And so as a result, everybody shapes public opinion, and whoever is the strongest wins. So when public opinion is created and established, what follows that is public policy or laws. Laws are created, public policies are created, and then the next thing you know, they're sending us dictates from MPS rules and regulations. You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. And that's just not in education, that's in every facet of life. This is why it's important for government. This is why it's important for voting. Voting matters because it's important. It affects every aspect of our life. But the question is, who's actually shaping public opinion? The goal for us is to pull this organization together. In addition to the 3,000 students we ultimately will have, the 450, I don't know how many employees of the 5 schools working together. Now, we might not have everybody. We don't need everybody working together. It ain't gonna all be 100%. Just like right now, there's some people who are listening, some people ain't listening. Some people are half asleep. And some people are just bright-eyed and ready. That's the way it is. That's the way life is. I get it. So we're not going to get 100%, but we don't need 100%. But what we do need is a critical mass. We need a critical mass of people from this school, from a high school, a critical mass of people from Lee School, a critical mass of people from Green Bay, a critical mass, and we could change the world. If we had a critical mass working on our social media, we could change the public opinion. We had a critical mass of people who are organizing in the community. We could change the community. But you got to want to do it. Remember I said earlier, if you read my articles, they're layered with personal responsibility. So yeah, everybody, some say, okay, well, you know, I didn't buy into all that. That's fine. You didn't have to. But those who do, who really believe in Milwaukee and a better Milwaukee, who believe that we can change the conditions if we work together, who believe that, no, there's no perfect situation. There's no such thing. But this is as good as it's going to get. Where you have the leadership who believe in this concept. Now, I got issues. I got my own issues. I got my own nonsense I bring to the table. And most of it, I'm not the best manager in the world. Some people want me to be a manager like this. They want me to be the man. I'm not that kind of person. I'm too loose. They say, well, you're not strong enough to be a manager. So yeah, I got some deficits there. I don't get up in everybody's world. I let them do what they need to do. Sometimes that's not good. Sometimes you got to get in there a little bit earlier before things get out of control. And so I got problems. I got my own issues, and everybody else does too. But I also got some strengths. And so do you. Nobody's perfect. But sometimes when you're looking up, you expect that person in front of you to be perfect when that person is not perfect. The problem sometimes, that person want to act like they're perfect, so you want to now call them on them being perfect, and they're not. They got issues just like everybody else. But what is perfect is the vision. What is perfect is the mission. And we're not going to get here overnight. I wrote a piece a couple weeks ago called One Step at a Time. That means we're not going to get there overnight. We didn't get here overnight. We can open up in September 4 schools, but we remember planning it, putting it together. And now we're here. In September, we're closer and closer to the goal. We're not finished. Again, my goal is to have a system where we have nearly 3,000 students, 400 and 500 people working on behalf of those students in our community. And then the next goal, once we can organize the infrastructure in the school building to deliver education, we start increasing and expanding the type of education. We haven't even touched that yet. We haven't even tinkered with that yet. Because children have to know, these children have to know who they are. They got to know that this mess that they're in is not their fault. They see, they got eyes, they got ears, And what do you think they're hearing? What do you think they're seeing? We got to give them the confidence to know that this is not their fault, that the conditions that they live in, that they see on a daily basis, is not their fault. Humans do very bad things to other humans. But if you want to be strong, if you want to change that, you young boy, you young girl, you young man, you young woman, you got to change it. That's the way it goes. Ain't no angels gonna come up from heaven gonna save us. Humans got to do it. So the question is, who are those humans? We got to instill that spirit in our children. Are we there yet? No. But that's the game plan. So a couple takeaways. One, more of you gotta read the articles. Then it'll take care of itself. I think I can get some feedback. I'm challenging you. I want some feedback. Two, you got to get on social media. And we're going to create a pathway where I believe that we're going to use social media in a way that it was intended to be used and get our message out. Our community, our issues, our agenda out. Every school you got to organize. We got to figure out a way, and I don't have the answers. I mean, I got some ideas, but you guys got the answers. We're going to have to organize our parents. We got to do a better job at organize our parents. That means you got to give them something that they need. You got to feed them. You got to give them something they want. In addition to taking care of their child, you got to give them something, a higher aspiration for why they should be organized. One way is to have activity in the schools. So whatever resources are out there in the community, we got to bring them into the schools. We're going to start doing more of that this year coming up. We got to make these schools the hubs for relief, for information, for resources, for programs for the community. Most of them just want to come in. We got to figure out a way, how do we got to do that? We have to have a community school, meaning that we have to remove the walls of the school and let the school open to the community and be a resource to the community. First, not taking any away from the children. And what we need to do for the children, that's a hard work. But we're going to have to do more than one thing. We're going to have to be able to figure out a way how we organize our parents and how that's spilling over into organizing our community. 3, we are going to have to combine the efforts we're doing at corporate with the efforts we're doing at the school. And we're going to start that conversation next week about Universal right now is organizing the Milwaukee community, the African American community. And we're not telling people that we're the best thing since sliced bread. What we're telling them is that they are the missing ingredient. And if the community is ever going to respond to this massive chaos that's taking place, it has to be organized. There has to be some strategic thinking going on. There has to be some strategic planning going on. You can't drive by and change 30, 40, 50-point disparities. If the plus-minus disparity ratio is 3%, and we're looking at disparities of 40% and 50% and 60%, they're not going to change because we want them to change. They're only going to change until we make them change, and there's a real strong plan in place to do that. So where's this plan coming from? Who's going to put this plan together? So we're pushing the community to aggregate its capacity in the area of finance, in the area of education, in the area of community development, in the area of social services. We asking them to come together, and they have capacity, but that capacity is meaningless if they're not working together. So far, so good. We're also going to try to do some real estate development. Right now, we're in the pathway. We just were awarded, well, it's hard to say awarded, because there's so many problems with this project. But yeah, there's so many. Awarded is, I mean, I'd like to get an easy deal for a change, but they're not. So we're redeveloping Garfield School at 4th and Garfield. And included in that project, we're developing restoring or rebuilding the Black Holocaust Museum. Challenges up the gazoo. But the real estate development piece is really important for us as a catalyst for the redevelopment of North Avenue. And now that we have Lee School, that neighborhood is dying for redevelopment. So we're coming up with a master plan for the redevelopment of that area. We also just made application for a program with the city to develop housing around Green Bay. Okay, so Green Bay all the way to Burleigh, I guess all the way east to Holton, is that? Holton. Holton, that's Holton? Holton. So east to Holton, west to MLK, and that little neighborhood there from Capitol to Burleigh to Holton to MLK is another target area we're trying to develop. Okay, so we just made an application to the city, and hopefully we'll be doing some housing development in that area. What we're trying to do is create economic opportunities, create jobs, rebuild housing, provide affordable housing, provide opportunities, but affordable housing is a twofold. It's not only just to, at the end of the day, offer some of our parents new housing, a new housing opportunity that's affordable, quality, and affordable, but it's also about economic development. The number one issue that we're facing in Milwaukee is the creation of jobs. Now, trust me, the little development that we do is not going to change anything, but it's a leadership position that we're taking, and if we can do it and we can show that it can be done, others will follow. That's the game plan. It's called leadership. That's what we're doing. So we now have to combine our development activity with our school activity so that when people talk about Universal, they know exactly what the brand is. They know that they know what the scholars are going to get on the educational side. They know the love that the scholars are going to receive. They know that we're not just in it for them when they're in the school, we're in it for them when they leave the school. They know that we're trying to organize our parents. They know we're trying to rebuild the communities around the schools. And first and foremost, we're looking at right now Green Bay, and we think we got resources, some resources to restore the baseball field, the basketball court, and the tennis court. Again, it's going to help significantly the school. We want to do the same thing for Lee. But the brand is what we want them to know about this brand. What is this Universal? And Rahim just talking. But guess what? That's where it starts at. Rahim is dreaming. That's what Rahim is doing, is dreaming. But the dream is coming alive. You are evidence that the dream is coming alive. But we're not out of the suit yet. We still got to earn it. I believe that fundamentally, we want to see these visions take place. We want to see these neighborhoods, come on. Can we do better than this? Yes. But one step at a time. One step at a time. And we're making these incremental steps. And as we go along, these are the things I need you guys to understand. I think those chicken wings got you guys all. No more chicken wings. We have lettuce and tomatoes. Lettuce and tomatoes. No, have some coffee. Bring coffee out for everybody. No, I'm really honored. And let's give our leadership a big hand. Guys, why don't you stand up? Come on, come on. Come on, you guys, Trina, Bruce, come on, stand up. Let me just tell you something. You guys we got work to do, all right? And some of this is, again, I'm listening to different people saying, what are your personal plans? What are your personal plans? How can we align your personal plans and your professional plans to the vision of our community? How can we do that for you? How can you align your personal plans? I'm sure everybody has personal plans. How can we combine those personal plans to the vision of helping our community? How can we create an infrastructure that if we all stuck our hands in, we can assist? Not only we get something out of it personally, but we also move in this needle. So, and I'm willing to sit down with anybody and everybody that has a plan. And look, I say all the time, I'll join your effort in 2 seconds. Tell me what the plan is. Well, I just laid out very framework of a plan of action that if we continue doing what we need to do in the next 3 years, next 5 years, we can lock this thing. No more are we talking about the issues and the problems facing our community. No, we'll be talking about solutions. By then, we'll be graduating in 5 years, we'll be graduating our first graduates out of high school. What would they look like? How will they compete? How will they compare to other students? Is there a program to keep them in the community? Is there actual infrastructure taking place to allow them to go as far as they need to go, but always understanding that coming home is must? Bringing that talent back to our community is a must. And how to insert that talent into this infrastructure that we're trying to build. But they got to lead by example. They got to see adults doing the same thing. They got to see adults sacrificing their time. They got to see adults doing the things that we want them to do. They got to see adults doing it, and they got to see adults doing it and being successful in doing it. They got to see all of us working together. There's one thing that's taking place when you start talking about protocol, when you start talking about infrastructure. What we have and what these children are inheriting is an infrastructure of chaos. There's no leadership, there's no organization, there's no plan, and we expect them to even understand and navigate things that as adults, we're learning ourselves. We have to create a protocol. We have to create an infrastructure of working together. We have to create an infrastructure. What does it look like? It's tough. It's real tough. I'll tell you what I do on a daily basis. I got a holster. I got mouthwash on both sides of my hip. Because you know what I'm doing every day? I'm kissing butt. That's what I'm doing. I do it for our children. All day, every day. I'm kissing butt. Because I got a vision. I got a purpose. I don't mind. I take the mouthwash out, I gargle, and keep it moving. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm sitting in meetings all day, every day, talking about planning for our community. Ain't nobody paying me for that. Not $1. In fact, I have to pay. But if I want to talk about it, I got to be about it. I got to lead by example. And you do too. You do too. You got to lead by example. So whatever we envision, you got to show it. You got to model it. You have that kind of conversation in education right now, modeling, right? Well, you got to model leadership. You got to model it. You got to create a team, an infrastructure where people can come in and come out. And when they go, and you don't demonize them. No, you go out of concern. Where are you? What's going on? But no demonizing. If they can help, whatever they can do, it can be able to use as fuel for this infrastructure. That's the real infrastructure. That's how we have to build it. So We got work to do. You guys can see. I'm happy. There was a concept about 4 years ago, we're going to build a dream team. You are the dream team. We're building that dream team. We're going to get the numbers. And remember I said earlier before, it's not enough. Everybody don't have to do it. What we need is critical mass. Critical mass will change everything. So maybe it's not all of us. But I say out of us, 10% of us can change things. 15% change things. You get into areas of 20, 25%, you're starting to kick some serious butt. So don't take much. Don't believe it takes a whole lot. Critical mass is just that critical mass of humans. And that thing you cannot count on. You cannot measure. If you can invoke the spirit of humans, anything can happen, and everything can happen. But we got to get a critical mass. I'm not naive to know that we cannot carry this thing. We cannot carry this burden. No one person can carry this burden. It has to be a shared and a collective burden, a carrying of this burden. We all got to share in it. So it all goes back to you doing the best you could do in your job, in your classroom. Bring your ideas to the table. And as leaders, you should accept those ideas, harness those ideas, and figure out how to use those ideas. Bring your energy to the table. Bring your creativity to the table. Nobody knows it all. But collectively, we know it all. We know a lot, collectively. But we have to build that. If we want to model leadership, we want to model the infrastructure that's going to change the world with our children, we got to do it ourselves. And it ain't going to happen because we want to do it. We're going to have to earn it. We're going to have to earn it. We're going to have to get through the pain and all the stuff that gets in the way that says that little voice in your mind that says, you know what, leave them people alone. I don't need to be doing that. That voice. Beat that voice down and let the voice says of encouragement, the voice of positiveness, the voice of hope, the voice of that we can do things. Feed that voice in you. That's your personal challenge. If you feed that voice, we got a better situation and we'll be able to do some of the things we're trying to do. We're laying the foundation for it right now. We're moving where we need to get to. We got a long way to go. But it takes personal responsibility, and you got to do it, and we need you. We cannot do this without you. Thank you so much. And I know I get a little hype, so I definitely spend a little longer than I wanted to, but as we move forward, we'll have some planned meetings where we can have a much more bigger organizational meeting, but I'm meeting with the leaders next week to start talking about an organizational structure that will allow for us to have a larger organizational meeting. We have to figure ourselves, look at ourselves as resources, and that's the game plan, okay? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Islam.